Chapter 31. Rain fell lightly from all directions like fine sifted flour being shaken from the heavens. This was England, Sussex to be precise, in the middle of joy. THC Zimbabwean car worker up the front door and nodded without speaking as she let Vanessa in. Not for the first time did Vanessa wonder how a person so dour-looking could be so named. The lack of communication with joyless joy bothered Vanessa. Usually others warmed to her, and especially Afri_. Cans who were always delighted by the mere fact that she knew so much about their continent. But then perhaps it was not fair to blame Joy. Working in such a place was bound to squeeze out every last bit of joy from a person. The Carrington home for the elderly had a steamed-up feel, warm and stuffy, like a second-hand clothing shop with the added lingering smells of sun, day roast, disinfectant and urine. When Vanessa arrived, 3 people sat in their lounge. Her father, Mrs. Halliday, slouched in her chair, fast asleep, and dear old Mrs. Murdoch, who had moved to the home at the same time as father and followed him everywhere with her Zimmer frame, even though most of the time she didn't remember who he was. Father had long since stopped paying attention to her, but she never noticed, mumbling away to herself regardless. Father was the only one active at that moment, bent over his armchair and rummaging through his briefcase. The case would be empty, but he would still be searching for something, a handkerchief, pencil, fountain pen, or some other item that he would soon ask Vanessa to find. "Hello, Daddy." "Fancy that," Nancy muttered. "Is that you, darling?" Father looked up briefly to squint in her direction. "I can't find my pen, darling. Have you brought me some more?" "No, Daddy, but I'm sure we'll find you one in your bedroom." It still shocked Vanessa to see her father like this, with his collar uneven and bits of breakfast lodged between his teeth. She sat down at the edge of a chair that stank of urine and used her fingertips to remove a wad of pink toilet paper from Father's hand. There was something horrible stuck to the paper that she dared not inspect. This was an expensive residential home, yet sometimes one had to wonder where all the money went. "Daddy, have you got your hearing aid in?" "No, he doesn't," Nancy replied. "Thank you, Nancy," Vanessa nodded, as she would to a child who had given the right answer. Perhaps not as demented as we all think, she thought to herself as she went to her father's room and found his hearing aid under the bed. On most days, Vanessa said little to her father. She cut his nails and listened patiently to his latest complaints, but today, when he suggested that Mary and all the other black carers be sent back to where they came from, she had had enough. "Will you come back tomorrow to shave my whiskers?" Father asked, when she stood up to leave. "No, Daddy. I'm going to the airport tomorrow." "Off to interview more colored people, are you? They ought to ship all back to where they came." Tired, cradling his raised knee with both hands. "Oh dearie, Dean." "Yes, we all know what you both think," Vanessa cut Nancy off. "I'm going to meet Teo. He's coming to stay with us for a few days." "Oh dearie, dearie me." Nancy shook her head. "Who?" Father asked. "God, not him. All he wants is your body. Haven't you worked that one out yet? That's all the colored men ever want." "Well, I'd be jolly happy if he wanted my body now," Vanessa snapped back. "I say," Nancy exclaimed. "Betty, did you hear that? All these years your mother and I tried protecting you, but still you want this wretched man," Father shouted. That black man used black magic to put a curse on you. I've always known it. Oh, shut up, Daddy. I say, Mrs. Halliday, did you hear that? Nancy continued to prod her nay. That'll be the father of Nessa's black child. The child is adopted, you old cow, father shouted. SSH. Joy pleaded, running in to see what the commotion was about. They do get into a state, don't they? She said, looking to Vanessa for moral support. Vanessa nodded. Pork chop, cauliflower and raspberry jelly, announced Khaled the cook, who had also come to the door. Lunch was being served. Did the Arab leave the fat on my pork chop? I'm sure he did, Mr. Richardson. I'm sure he did, Joy repeated, taking Father's arm, almost kindly, while Vanessa waved goodbye. There were meetings Vanessa was expected to attend in London, but she had decided not to go. She called in sick and walked to the high street where she had every intention of pampering herself, treatment for the stress of life. There. Lewis shops were at least one consolation for coming all the way to Sussex to visit father. As she thought of what to buy, she remembered last night's dream. She was at Heathrow standing in line waiting for Theo. Many people waited. Like her, his old friends from Oxford, various human rights personnel and some United Nations officials. He was looking for her, she could tell. He kept peering down the line, but when he got to where she stood, he looked straight past her as though she were invisible, and then he turned around. Suddenly, she realized he was searching for the Vanessa with the long hair and the short Oxford skirts. Theo, I'm here. She called, but he didn't hear. He kept on walking back through customs and away, and only she knew why. It was just a dream, but it was enough to make her want to leave her hair loosened by something that would remind him of the way she used to look, just in case. As she peered into the shop windows, she thought of how he had held her the last time they met. 4 years ago, she sighed, touching the spot on her neck where he might have kissed her. She was finding nothing in the Lewis shops. She looked in Monsoon, but the colors were too gaudy and the fabrics too delicate. In Caprice, the styles were all wrong, a bizarre mix of skimpy and maternity. But just as she was leaving, something caught her eye. It was a dark brown linen skirt, long and hip-hugging, the sort of thing that would go well with one of her cotton shirts worn open at the neck, so she bought it and now felt ready. She planned to arrive at Heathrow early in the morning, collect Theo and bring him home. She felt certain it was going to be a wonderful first evening. She had pictured it all in her mind's eye, except for Edward and Theo together, which was a consideration she kept pushing aside until this moment. Edward knew nothing of her correspondence with Theo, nothing, at least, of the intimate details and her rekindled feelings. What in the world was she thinking? Heathrow seemed to grow more unbearable each time Vanessa visited, with its sticky heat and crowds, but she stood patiently waiting for the British Airways flight from Lagos. The last time she had come here was to see Suleiman off on his travels. She sighed, recalling how they had fought. At least they had. Both apologized, but it was one of those fights that were not easily forgotten. It would take time to heal. She watched as the line of Nigerians snaked its way out with trolleys piled high with suitcases, baskets and cardboard boxes of all shapes and sizes. She expected Theo to be delayed. Customs would be asking questions about his length of stay and the purpose of his visit, but he would get through. They had double-checked. Soon the line of passengers disappeared and a new set of travelers arrived. Where was Teo? She looked again at his telex. Passport returned. Arriving Heathrow 16:30. BA 263. Kind regards. Toyo. The time was right. Where was he? She walked to the desk to inquire. At first, they would not tell her whether he was on the passenger list. Policy, they said. She asked for a supervisor and then the supervisor's boss, and eventually they checked for her. Teo was not on the list.